Hi, Olga.
Hello.
Welcome to the What Podcast.
Hello, what podcast? Fun to be here.
We are going to get into some good conversation. I know I can feel it actually. But first, why don't you share who you are, what you do, what's important to you with our audience, and then we'll start our conversation.
Sure. So I am here because I am a faculty of Coach Academy. I would say one of the newest ones, along with Penny. Has Penny been in the
Yeah,
podcast yet?
not yet. No,
Not
no.
yet. All right. And I am also an alumni of the program of leadership and executive coaching,
Yeah,
which I'm
that's
now
right.
teaching, and I'm a big fan of it. I okay, so my background professionally, I started my profession as a clinical social worker. I started my career or my studying in law. I don't know if you knew that, but I was in law school.
I think you might have told me that.
Maybe
Yeah.
back home, I'm Colombian. You can
Mm,
go from university to straight to law school. It's a 5-year schooling.
okay.
Hard
Oh,
to
okay.
get in, but I did, and I loved it. I A plus my argument class. So talking is something I like doing. And then I had to move to Canada, and I had to move here as a refugee, and I became very interested suddenly in human rights. And so I changed gears. I could have been accepted into the law school here in Ottawa University, because civil law, it's similar to what we're doing, and they had an exchange with my university. However, I didn't speak any French. I still don't. And so that was the requisite. It had to be the French program, which I couldn't do. So I went to learn English alongside with studying human rights and social work. And while I was studying social work, my interest was policy writing. And I always said out loud, I will never do any clinical work. I don't want to do any clinical work. I definitely want to do the political side of social work and like influence at a greater level. And when my first practicum came along, I worked with immigrant women victim of violence, and I was hooked. I'm like, this is amazing. I want to help people this way. This is so good. And then
Mhm.
my second one with the Canadian Red Cross, actually writing policy, and I loved it, but not as much as having like this face to face human connection. Went through my schooling, graduated. Um, so I went through my schooling while learning English.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
challenge. I will never do this ever again, but I did it.
Mhm.
So I had to submit my essays 2 weeks in advance so that they could correct my grammar.
Oh,
And then I will submit my actual essay. My professors were so nice.
oh,
They were
nice.
trying hard, and I had to translate all my textbooks word by word to understand what I was reading. And I'll take notes in Spanish. So I feel that I developed some skills that I was gonna need later in life,
Wow, that
which is
sounds so
like,
challenging.
oh my God,
How long ago was that? That would have been how long now?
23 years ago.
Wow.
I don't know how I did it. And then I would work at a Tim Hortons to like practice my listening skills and like really put myself out there to speak. So graduated from Carleton, and I went straight into clinical social work. And I had a phenomenal mentor to this date. I love her. And I've worked in addictions. I later went into child welfare because as an addictions counselor, I realized a lot of people had child abuse as their background or their trauma. And so that brought me into child welfare, where I did every single position possible in the organization that I was qualified for, and ended up my child welfare career training provincially all of the social workers that were coming into child welfare and writing policy so that it was more inclusive. So in the executive office, and I realized I didn't want to work for anyone but myself and do things my way. So I opened my private practice at the time as a therapist with a small meditation studio attached to my private practice. And I did that for, I would say, 4.5 years until I became pregnant. And then I went fully online as I was prepping to be a mom for the first time. And I've been online ever since, providing coaching, a little bit of therapy still, and mindfulness just through my coaching practice and my therapeutic practice. So I've been in private practice, or I've had a coaching firm for the last, it's going to be 9 years in November.
Oh, wow.
I am a
Right.
one, I am a wife, I am a daughter, I'm a sister. And yeah, that is who I am and my background. Well, if you ask me for my background, but there it is.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks for sharing. I'm well, I'm struck by I'm always struck by your passion. I think that you're a very passionate person. And I really connect to that part of you because of the passion you have for being just inquisitive about your craft, right? How you
Mhm.
can be better, what you can do differently, all the ways that you can do what you do. So, and one of the things you did was become an entrepreneur. You left, the public work to become a private entrepreneur. What was that transition like? Because so many of our students are doing that or want to do that or
Yeah.
talk about eventually doing that in retirement. What do you have to say about that
Uh,
transition?
okay, so I think you probably agree with me in that statement. I think I was born to follow this path. I think that feel very constricted in other environments where I don't get to be creative and kind of like cultivate that creativity and like that drive and like go full force. Uh, or in a partnership like this one where it's open to have conversations and to think, what else can we do? So for me, it was the obvious path, and I think I absolutely loved every job I've had, and I've taken it to the next level and to the next level. There is today at the Ottawa Children's Aid a department that didn't exist, and I was a big part of creating that, which has reduced the amount of children in child welfare care in foster homes, and we've added an entire team to help solve for where children can be cared for within families or relatives or kin of some sort. And so I like to think that I was a huge part of that. And that's that passion that you think that you mentioned. I like to think of the impossible being possible. So for me, entrepreneurship, which is so risky for many, I thrive on that risk. I love not knowing where my next paycheck is coming from and that it depends on my work. I'm like, yes, I get to be creative. There's something about that risk that to me is invigorating. It's it's different. Having said that, making that jump was terrifying, even for somebody as like risk risk driven as I am. It was very scary to do, but also I had to do it. Like it was either I followed what I really wanted to do or my passion will be over. And I can't imagine my life without passion. I really can't.
Mm-hmm,
So I
mm-hmm.
took that risk. It helps. It helps that I have a husband who's also an entrepreneur. Some people say, "How does that help? Two entrepreneurs in the household?" But he gets it. He gets exactly what I'm saying. Where we're just driven by not knowing what's next, and the possibilities are exactly in our hands. We can create them. So he's definitely been. He was a huge push for me. My family is more traditional jobs, scholars who've done all kinds of stuff. My mom did end up opening her private firm as a lawyer at the end of her law career. But so from that mentality of like, I saved all the money, I had all the experience, it was safer to do it. And I just didn't want to end my career doing this. It felt like it would be a waste of my life almost. uh,
Mm.
do it that way. So I kind of deviated. My parents were like, "Oh my god, what? You're gonna leave your high-paying job and your benefits and your pension to go do what? Teach meditation? Who in the right state of mind wants to do that?" And I was like, "It's impossible to not succeed. I absolutely love it and I'm good at it. So I will absolutely succeed." And it's been 9 years. It's been 9 years of being in this crazy, I don't know if I should call it crazy because it's not really crazy, but in this fun
Mm.
world of yeah, improving your game. Things change and you have to reinvent yourself. And yeah, so coaching, I think for me, was written on the cards, because being an entrepreneur, nothing forces you to grow personally more than owning a business. I don't know if you can relate.
Oh God, yeah. You learn all kinds of things about yourself.
Yeah, and you can't stay the same. You can't stay in status quo ever.
Yeah.
You're like, you
Yeah.
gotta change. You gotta change. You gotta have thicker skin. You gotta be more creative. So yeah, it's not an easy step to make. It's not for everybody, but if you do make that step, commit 100%, because I do believe that success is what follows commitment. If you commit to something
Mm.
to see it through, uh, it's going to come. That's my
Yeah, make a decision. Making a decision is often the hardest thing, the hardest part. But once you make that decision, stick to it, right?
yeah.
And you know, hopefully your passion and your mission help you to stick to it because it's really something you believe in and you want for the world and for yourself. As I've gotten to know you, I know there's a part of you that loves the storytelling of
Mhm.
people and their experiences. So I'm curious to know a little bit about the story that you would tell around how you built that mental toughness to withstand all the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and the uncertainty.
Yeah, I think I'm still building it because I'm still in entrepreneurship. So that story keeps growing and changing and evolving. When I was transitioning, so I had started my private practice, I hadn't let go of my job 100%. So I was working evenings after my full-time job. I remember telling my husband, and I thought I was doing myself a favor by thinking this way. And I said to my husband, I've read everywhere that the first 3 years in business, you make no money, you're barely surviving. And so I just have to like prep myself that the first 3 years is losses. But no, in our business, there's not a lot of upfront investment. So really losses, I don't know that you could. But anyways, I was thinking to myself, like that's how it's gonna be. And my husband asked me a question, which is always a good thing to do. And he says, what do you think happens when you begin this journey thinking that way?
Mm.
When you could think the complete opposite. Like, what if you think, I'm never going to struggle? My business is never going to struggle. And it felt so daring. And also, like, you're not being realistic, Chris. You have to like think of trouble. And he wasn't. He's like, what happens? Like, what if you just don't accept that as your reality? And it became the law for me that day. I'm like, he's absolutely right. I could choose a complete different belief system. And that
Mm.
is, there is no way I cannot succeed at this, period. And I will not struggle. That's not what I want to invite into my business. And I have not. Like, even when I think I'm struggling, it's like, I'm not really. Everything is okay. So that's been the story that I've told myself, almost like I'm taking care of.
Mm.
There is that underlying belief because I know the service that I provide, it's so pure. It's coming from such a good intent and it helps. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, there is a give and receive, and the universe needs this energy. And I put that out there that that's what I want. And I don't know. I always feel like it falls on my lap, an opportunity where I'm like, oh, yes, I can do that. I can come talk to your organization. I can, it falls on me. And I think it's because I I believe that's possible. I don't know. That's the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, so many people when they start a coaching business, they talk about imposter syndrome. They talk about am I good enough?
Yes.
A lot of talk about am I good enough? And again, mindset is a choice. Like when the times that I've struggled and the times that I've felt super hard in building, this academy, I have always turned to, if not me, it's going to be someone else. I want to claim this for me. Like this is mine, right? And why not? Why not, really?
Not you. Yeah, why not you?
Yeah, and you got to believe that there is, well, I love what you say about shifting your focus. I always say 2 millimeter shift. That's what coaching does. That one question shifts you from here to here.
Yeah.
And it's just a 2 millimeter shift, but it changes everything often. Right. So this focus on, well, actually changing your focus completely. Yeah. That's
And
really
that
cool.
brings me to another point that I think has made me stand on my 2 feet throughout the last 9 years and not have a lot of lows personally, or you mentioned imposter syndrome. I didn't want to open my private practice until I had a PhD. I had
Mm,
told myself I better be writing books and I better be like teaching at the university. And then I called myself out on that. And what happens in that wait? Who am I not helping? Who am I not serving?
right.
Because
Right.
I'm not, and that the cost I'm willing to pay? Like I jokingly say I'll still be studying and not help, because then if I let that be my belief, I'll keep saying like, oh, but I need one more thing before I can put myself out there. Uh, but to your point, how I envision my practice, it's called Olga's Way, was in a coaching call, in a free coaching, my first coaching session ever of this uh, coach from Toronto, I will never forget, pop up into my Google search. And she asked me to stand up out of my desk. We were on the phone, and she says, close your eyes and imagine, what are you doing beginning to end, the beginning of the day to the end? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I am so, like, I can so easily imagine things. Anybody, by the way, who has anxiety, you can imagine things, okay? You can imagine the worst case scenario, so you can also imagine the best case scenario. And this woman just used my imagination to imagine what it would be like to not be at my office, not be at the job that I was doing, but doing whatever my heart felt called to doing. And I saw it, and I'm like, oh, now I know. Now that I know what the north looks like, I'm going. So I realize the power of having a thought partner.
Mm,
And that's what, to me, coaches are, thought partners. And I want them. I thrive being coached. And so my first coach wasn't her. I thank her for that. I was like, I don't need you. I now know where I'm going. And once I opened my business and it started getting real, like, oh my God, first March break, I will never forget. Everybody canceled their appointments. And I was like, oh, no paycheck? No paycheck this week. What am I going to do? Like, this is real panic.
yeah.
Uh, and so having a thought partner while you're doing anything in life, it's so much easier. You can really clean your brain. That's how I describe coaching. It's like I need
Cleaning
to
your
clean my
brain. Oh, I
brain.
like that. Oh, that's good.
I clean
Yeah.
my brain once a week, and I dump things to my coach. Like, I don't know why I'm having all these crazy thoughts, but it's a place to have. And then I hear myself talk, I'm like, that makes no sense. Oh, that comes from my childhood. I get it. And I organize my thoughts and I move on. That has been imperative for me in my coaching practice as a coach, but also as an entrepreneur. It's so you know how emotional it is. Like, we
Oh,
almost feel like our business is an extension, it's an arm of your body. And if your business is not doing well, you're not doing well. And if you're not doing well, sometimes your business is not doing well. So it's like coordinating so that you can know I am a good whole human being, and there is my business, and it's not a representation of me as a human. And we're gonna, swim, tango, whatever you want to say. And so having that coach has been for me, and I've changed coaches depending on my needs, but I've always been coach. And I think that I'll be not telling the truth if I didn't say that has been incredibly helpful for me. And sometimes the coach has been my husband, who happens to be brilliant at asking me questions just because of the experience he has in
mm-hmm,
business himself. So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
so that has been key, I would say. I will highly suggest
mm-hmm. Well, that's really neat and great, in terms of building mindset and thinking about the offering. Like we get, we get in our own way, right? We start
that. Yep.
thinking about, am I good enough? But we forget that what you're trying to provide is so valuable and so many people need it and want it. You're actually doing them a disservice if you're not offering your service. Um, and that being said, so how, if you look back and maybe even up to today, like what has been your strategy in building a client base as an independent coach?
the flexibility comes to mind as you say. What's been my strategy has been so flexible so that I can anticipate the needs of the community. So when I first started, I did not have a niche, nor did I want to. I was like, I don't even know who I want to work with. I'm
Mm.
just going to work with everybody. So now keep in mind, I was strictly doing therapy at the time. I was doing therapy with kids. I was teaching mindfulness. I was working with couples. I would just see anybody who knocked on the door. I was like, I'll see you. I'll see what I can do. And that was very important because I started to think, "No, I don't want to work with couples. I don't want to work with children. Because really what I wanted to work was with the parents of the children. So I started saying like, no, this is not for me. This is not for me. And really find like what lit me up. Like the clients that I would see their names on my calendar and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this person. That was an indicator for me. So that flexibility I allowed myself to, as well as keeping my brain connected to business people, other coaches, masterminds. I've invested a lot of money in my mind. Like what
Mm.
keeps my mind motivated? What keeps me like these people are doing really great? Like how can I be the person who doesn't know anything in that room? That's where I place myself. And that keeps me, I don't know, wanting more or just amazed at what's possible. I've sat in rooms where coaches are making millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars a year, like 25, like 10 million, 25. And it's like unbelievable to me that that's possible as a coach. And I want to be there just to observe them. I'm like, what are they doing? How are they thinking? And
Yeah.
what can I learn from that? Right. Whereas I think that many times we don't invest as coaches, we don't invest in our own minds. We don't invest in our own development. We're like, well, I got trained, done. Now I'm on my own. And it could be a lonely profession if you think about it, if you're not
Well, that's
connected.
why we are so committed to building community around coaching because it can be a lonely profession. It can be very lonely for a lot of people who are trying to build independent practices and they don't have anybody to lean on. And what you said about continuous education,
Mhm.
I have always been actively learning as much as I've been facilitating the
Mhm.
learning for others. And so that is a commitment that I've made to myself because I know that there's no limit to what I can learn,
No.
right? There's no end game when it comes to learning. You have endless potential to learn. And so I totally agree with that. And so what would you say is I guess what would you want a coach to know about some of the journey? Like, what would you say that people could learn from your journey that you would want to share right now? A little bit of wisdom from your path as an entrepreneur.
So I think making friends with fear is a big one
Mm-hmm.
because you are gonna have to do things that you're not sure. You're not sure is the right move. You are gonna expose yourself. I remember when one of my coaches was like, "You need to be on Instagram every day," and I was like, "What?" And show them what. So that was very uncomfortable. Like you're gonna have to do uncomfortable things. I am a public speaker. That's my comfort zone. But videos that I'm not talking to anybody, where I'm not interacting with humans, that was completely out of my comfort zone. Now I have my own podcast. I can talk by myself. I've developed that. So I think that ability to know I'm gonna do scary things. I don't have to do them by myself. I can get myself a coach. I don't know you. I wouldn't hire a coach who's not being coached personally. Like, do you believe in this
Yeah,
or not?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
is
yeah.
this something you believe the investment is worth, like is worth making the investment? So making friends with fear and having that thought companion or that coach, I think I I'm so grateful that happened to me. And it happened to me that my husband heard his coach talk at one of his masterminds and he's like, I think you should hire her. And I was like, it's $5,000. How can somebody charge so much for a 6-month program? I can't imagine. And Chris is like, it's an investment in your business. What is there to think about? If you can do better as a human being, and then your business is gonna thrive, why not invest in yourself? And yeah, again, thanks to Chris, thanks to you know me being coachable and saying like, okay, I'm gonna give
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
a try. So having that was essential because I felt I could go back to in those moments of panic and talk it through. Trying new things and keeping yourself, but I guess I attribute that to coaching too, but keep yourself accountable for the quality of the thoughts you're having about yourself and the service you provide.
Mm. Mm.
You said we get in our own ways. We're like, oh, but who am I to be helping? There's a million other coaches. Why are they going to want to work about me? Like, find your light, because there's people in the dark who need your light, not the person next to you, but yours. And you're so unique. Even if you are, coach number, I don't know, 5,000, your message, who you are, your personality, your background speaks to your ideal client. And so I don't want to work with everybody, but I want my ideal clients to hear me and be like, that's my coach.
Mm.
I think that was a big shift for me in my head, from I want everybody to want to work with me to like, actually, I want my ideal client to want to work with me. So anybody who thinks I'm not their coach wasn't my ideal client anyways.
I really like what you just said about be responsible for the quality of your thoughts. I think that's what you said. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's such a good thing to think about and reflect with, because our minds are so busy, right? And I personally, the things that really helped me stay connected to what I wanted and not get derailed by, challenges and obstacles along the way, was keeping my mind really present to what I wanted through listening to podcasts of people who had done it before me, YouTube videos of motivational speakers, like anything that I could read or listen to or take in that was feeding my mind with everything I wanted. And I did that almost obsessively. If anybody told me I couldn't, it's like, go away.
Yep.
You can't be in my circle right now. I need to protect this mindset. And I did that so passionately because I knew that without it, I might get derailed, or I might start believing the naysayers, believing the people who said you couldn't do it and you're not going to do it and all those things, right? So yeah, I get that. That's a really good
And I
line.
think you need some of those. I follow somebody who says, choose your enemies wisely because they can like propel you towards success. So
Oh yeah.
I love my mom's like inquisitive mind, like, oh my God, my girl is gonna leave all safety. And as uncomfortable as it was to hear all her worries, they really made me think through and be like more secure what I was going to do and why it was important to do it. But again, staying accountable. What are these thoughts about who am I to help anybody doing to the gift I've got to help people or to serve people? And who is it getting benefited by me having these quality thoughts? I think I told you it was COVID. My son was 4 months old. COVID hits. People are like losing their mind. I'm going to save all my money. I don't think I can spend in coaching. Coaching sometimes is a luxury, expense for people. And I was like, I'm going to be creative. What can I do? I'm going to record my first class, my first course called Reset Your Mindset. I had braces on. I was missing a tooth because they were like fixing my my mouth. And I was doing video classes with a 4-month-old who didn't sleep at night. And so I had like, bags under my eyes. And my thought was like, this is so imperfect. And everything in me would want to not publish any of this. But it is COVID and humans need to hear this. You can reset your mindset. We can work on our mindset. That is the thing that we control. And I've coached and helped like hundreds. I think we're to like 500 now who have done this program.
Wow.
I've since
have you updated
my vintage videos. And some people complained that they wanted to see them because it made them feel normal that I wasn't. So, and I'm like, no. That was just to get it out the door, imperfect and all. And that's where I feel that fear was my friend. I'm like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
some people are gonna see this and be, who are you? And some people are gonna hear the message and think this is powerful and is gonna get the help that they need in these life world circumstances we're in that are so unexpected. I felt ready to help people. And I felt that it was very important that I did it. And so I overcame that fear of what I look like. I could have also not done videos. I don't know why I
Oh,
chose video format, but I did. And I haven't regretted it. I think that that's what it takes to run your business, to just think, what does the community need right now? And am I willing to get past my own discomfort because it could bring like goodness to those who are gonna need this message or these help.
yeah. I mean, like I have delayed this podcast for years. I didn't want, I said I was going to do it and I never did it because I didn't want to be on camera. Like I didn't want, I have this like serious, like hard barrier to hurdle to jump over to be able to do it. But then, like you said, the message is more important than what I look like, or if I don't, have a beautiful wardrobe, which now I've decided to adopt the Steve Jobs kind of
Well
style.
done. Good.
All black every day. There's no question about what I'm gonna wear. So, but I had to do things to get over myself, really, because it's not about me.
It's
And I
not
don't
about you.
think, yeah, it's not about me. It's about what others can do for others. It's about paying it forward. It's about that ripple effect that is so powerful. And that when we grow and decide to invest in ourselves to grow, it lights a spark in other people around you to grow. I
Like I
really think that
just
we affect other people as we grow, right?
and people see like, oh my god, braces missing tooth, and she went out and do it. I can do my own thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, go do it, girl. You got this. If I can do it with a 4-month-old baby,
Hey,
and
I need to see these videos. It's so funny. I gotta see these videos.
I might be generous enough to show them to you, Natalie. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
I was thinking back as you were talking of the doctor who saved my life.
Oh,
Do you think
oh.
what I remember what he
That's
looked
a really big statement you just made casually. The
I know.
doctor who saved my life.
This
Okay.
doctor saved my life. He literally didn't know what to do. He thought I was dying. He told my mom I was dying. And my mom says he literally opened books to study how else they could help my body, which was
Oh, wow.
60% dead. Do you think I remember what he was wearing? How he showed up to that room in what particular way? All I have is this immense gratitude that this man did whatever he had to do to be of service, to put his gift to my service. And so that's like, I had never even had that recollection until now, to think about like whatever you're thinking about that is a problem, to the person who really needs your assistance right now, your coaching, you to get over that fear is worth it, because somebody's going to be so grateful at the end of that session that they spoke to you, that they
Oh,
had that
yeah.
trust, that they just walk over, that bridge that they needed to. And so, yeah, it's not about you. It's about that thing that's inside of you, that people will remember the feeling. They might not remember what you look like. And some people tell me, you were funny, you had like a hairband on and whatever. Like there's something physically that might have, picked their attention in a whatever way. But I think it's just concentrating back into your purpose. What am I here to do? What's so important for me to overcome this? Like what's on the other side of me overcoming this imposter syndrome or fear of leaving that safety of your job, or or changing your mindset about what it's like to not know where your next paycheck is coming from. Like the drive I get from that is excitement, and I've made it be that way. It could be scary too.
Well, it is what you decide it to be. And I say that, I know some things are just really scary, but having gone through some pretty scary things in my life as well, I know that each one of them happened for me to work around it, to get better, to do something differently, to pivot, to challenge myself, to recognize something in me. Like, so when I say it happened for me, it happened for me to learn something.
That's it.
And when we can focus on that learning and focus on what's next and focus on, you know, that there is always something next. We always feel, I think what happens with fear is you feel stuck in a moment, right? And when we can actually look beyond that moment to, okay, what can I learn, do, create, pivot? How do I grab onto something right now instead of getting stuck in that moment? Because you're right, fear has so much to teach us, right? That we need that too, to balance, to know, you know, that yin and yang, I think, of that's how we get to know each other and ourselves and what we're capable of. I was thinking about something when you were telling your story, which is so funny. Oh, right, about showing up. Being human is so, I think, compelling because I remember I'm terrible at putting on makeup. I don't know anything about makeup, okay? So one day I'm doing a photo shoot and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta put on makeup. I need to know how to put on makeup. So I go to YouTube and I find this woman who's showing how to contour and do all this stuff. So I'm sitting there and I've got my brushes and I'm watching her and she has her phone stuck on like a wall and the sticky comes off. So the phone goes plummeting down under her desk and the camera is up and all you see is her clambering around under the desk and still talking through her application of makeup. She comes back
I'm
up,
playing it cool.
puts the phone back on the
Oh
wall,
my God.
and I'm dying of laughter. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard. And I thought to myself, would I post this? Like, would you actually post this? She did.
Oh yeah.
And I think, you know what it made me feel? Like she's just human.
Yeah.
She's normal. She's like not perfect. Like every celebrity out there, they're not perfect. Not that we're celebrities, but I'm just saying, like, the people we think are perfect are not
Right.
perfect because we're human, and to be human is to be imperfect. So I just think that those are the moments that like
I
really,
yeah.
yeah, inspire.
It's paid off very well for me. Like my brand is very casual. And
Mhm. Mhm.
and that I think is it's part of my core values. I'm genuine. You know, good news and bad news is that you get what you see. It is it. And I do believe that as an entrepreneur, that has served me very well. Not to aim to be perfect. You know, we hear our students like, but if I'm gonna coach a doctor, I better know everything. Like, who am I to coach a doctor?
Yeah.
Are you human? Can you hear somebody talk? Can you get into that conversation and apply, right? Like what tools you're learning, and that is it. You don't need to be an expert on anything. And that takes a huge edge off running your business. And being an independent coach is having a business. That took me a while to wrap my head around and be like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
a woman. No, I'm just, I'm just a social worker. No, no, this is a business and you want to treat it like one, and you want to know and think about your brand and how you what makes it very you, because people can read through you and they will trust you faster if you're just like dropping your phone and being like, by the way, this is me. Today I'm here, tomorrow I'm
Oh.
at my desk.
Gosh, I laughed. Oh, it was so good. And you know, sometimes you just need to laugh, like, and
Yeah.
be with people who can laugh at themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about. Yeah, well, thanks for that. That was great. I really appreciate this conversation. It reminds me actually too of what's important when you're committed to something. You know, we started with the word commitment and you know, making a decision, and I think that's that's where everything begins. And you know, Mark Zuckerberg says something which I think is super important to remember, because we often feel in like the faster, better, stronger society we live in that we have to have the answer and we need to have it now. So that business idea has to be perfect from the beginning. But in fact, what he says is that it's an absolute fallacy. No idea is perfect when it begins. If he had known what Facebook was going to become, he probably wouldn't have done it. He would have been too intimidated, he said. You know, he said like connecting people. I'm a software guy. Like I'm a computer guy. I code, you know, and so knowing you don't have to know it all, but you do want to start with an idea and see what happens and see what evolves and notice the opportunities as you go and it becomes something. that often you can't predict, right?
Yeah.
And so all these people, I think, who start coaching practices and they think they need to know what niche and have the perfect website and have everything done so perfectly. It's a process, and it's one that we have to engage in to begin, right?
Yeah, I think that owning a business or a coaching practice is like having a coaching session is self-management, and like really managing your emotions and really understanding what are the limiting beliefs that I'm having and what am I making this mean. And that is why not doing this by yourself is helpful. Like having that support, that coach, that mastermind, that community that can help you process because you're going to have them. So to not anticipate them is also not helpful, but to know that that comes with the job, right? Like you're going to have to manage. Some people will cancel their contracts and you're going to feel a feeling about that and not making it about you, and have somebody to process that with. It's 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 invaluable in my opinion to not do that on your own, to have your own coach to help you through this. So I think that as coaches starting, we're always thinking of getting clients, which is helpful. Obviously, we need them, but also get yourself a coach. Start thinking of who's going to coach you, and it could be a peer coach. I get coached by peers now, and it's fun. But do get that support system, because your mind needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. You will form limiting beliefs, unhelpful thoughts without your awareness. And maybe you're procrastinating. You're like, I don't know, I'm not doing my website yet. Or you're thinking you need a website before you get a client, which it's proven to be not accurate. So yeah, getting that kind of help
Yeah.
is
Well, thank
wonderful.
you for this time. I mean, I really appreciate this conversation, and I think a lot of people will appreciate the honesty of it and the practical, real things that you need to do to start thinking like an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really valuable information. Where can people reach you, Olga, if they want to? Oh,
So yeah, LinkedIn, Olga Lacroix. You can also find me on Instagram at olga.s.way, or on my
mhm.
website, olgasway.com. And yeah. Or
Olgasway.com. Well, we'll put them in the comments so that the people can see where to find you.
and
And
if they are part of the community, I am obviously in the Global Academy community.
right. And so maybe on an ending note, what would you say about Coach Academy as a place for coaches to gather and grow and learn?
I think that's where you get to build your community, especially
Yeah.
with coaches that have the same training that you did. It's so easy to, come back and get them to coach you, or get them to hear you as you're starting to put yourself out there and running into roadblocks that you are going to, and have that community to come back to is so important. And I will say I'm sort of new to the team, but the quality of the humans in just the team, the staff, the faculty is incredible. You will not like come to any of us. I don't think you would regret a conversation that you can have with any of the faculty. And I know for a fact that we're all very open and willing to have a conversation with you or to help you in any way we can to succeed, because we all want your success. Your success means you're going out there and helping other people, and that ripple effect that Natalie talks about. We are all sold on that. That's what we want.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the
Yes.
better care you are as a coach, the better the work you're going to do, and the better our community is going to be. So, you know, stay connected. Don't let this be a lonely profession, because it can be. It's easy to just get into your own ways. But having peers to talk through and to improve your game, it's again invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, the team is fantastic. I mean, I can't be more blessed. We can't be more blessed as a community to have these expertise in our community to learn from. So thank you. Thanks for the talk, and yeah, we'll see you in the community.
Yes. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.